So last summer, David Leitch, who is the director of Deadpool 2, he co-directed John Wick, the first one, didn't get as much credit as Chad Stahelski, who has been the director of all the John Wick films, but now David Leitch is making a name for himself, and he has been working in the action genre, delivering very entertaining movies. And he just delivered a movie called Bullet Train, and it's a movie that is, one big blockbuster type movie. It doesn't conventionally fit into what people are used to seeing. A lot of people are used to seeing superhero movies, these big stories with spandex and epic world building. I was very much looking forward to Bullet Train because to me, it seemed to be a film that is just a fun, old action film, a ride that anyone could enjoy, and it has humor. It just didn't seem to be one of these stories you really have to wrap your head around. Not that Bullet Train by any means should be, a complicated film. It's just a fun story. I feel like we've been too, brought down with big blockbuster, even Pixar, their best films are when they're the most simple. Look at Elemental and, look at the difference between Elemental and Luca. Luca is very good and just focused on a simple story. Then there's Elemental, which is trying to do this convoluted world of all these different characters from different elements of life, and it just is bland and awful. Bullet Train is similar because it has so much going for it, but it tries to shove so much into one movie, it doesn't work. Basically, I think that the visuals of the film are the sell, the characters are great. It really is about structure and pacing. It's a movie that could be great. It could be rewatchable. This could be a movie that, I want to put on years from now. When you go to sit down and see a movie, you think, this is going to be a movie I'm hoping to, love. But that's just not the case with Bullet Train. I saw it, I enjoyed it, but, as it got, especially towards its second hour, I was very clearly able to see the flaws. And it becomes clear when the movie uses flashback structure way too much. That's a big problem with movies, and it just doesn't work, as, in the rule of film, you can have flashbacks, I could say, maybe there could be an exception, but mostly the rule should be that you shouldn't have flashbacks. Like I'm saying, could work, but most of the time it just is so jarring, it takes you out of it. And in this case, there are so many characters to kind of establish. If they had just kind of kept the plot flowing with, very sequentially, it would have worked. Like I said, all the characters are very interesting. It's just how they utilize certain moments. It feels like there's so much they're trying to do that it just doesn't feel as satisfying as it could. The pacing is very off. Let's talk, for instance, about the characters of Tangerine, and let's talk about Tangerine and Lemon. I think they're great. Aaron Taylor-Johnson, Brian Tyree Henry. They have such good chemistry in this film. But it feels like, they are kind of shoved to the side. And honestly, that's not even saying anything because Brad Pitt also is shoved to the side. I feel like every character is shoved to the side in order to keep introducing new characters, but they never really get payoffs, if you know what I mean. If you're gonna shove Brad Pitt aside and then introduce Lemon and Tangerine, that's great because they're entertaining, but then you have to really pay that off. Instead, they go to Bad Bunny's character, okay? And that just doesn't work because he's basically just there to set up a plot point. They're there to say that Bad Bunny's character wants revenge for something that happened 12 years ago. So now you're thinking, what happened 12 years ago? And then it catches you up. And it just feels like there's not a natural flow to it. Zazie Beetz' character as well, it just feels like kind of crammed in there. I really don't like the cameos, too, that were in this film. There's a lot of cameos. Sandra Bullock is in this film. Ryan Reynolds is in this film. Channing Tatum's in this film. Some of them worked. I think the Channing Tatum cameo actually works. It's a little funny. These grounded natural moments on the train are good, but I feel this flashback structure tears the movie apart. It should just be a very simple story, an action story. A guy named Ladybug trying to get a briefcase. It's just a regular job. He's a hitman, but he doesn't want to, be part of this world anymore. But he gets caught up in this case when someone dies on the train, and they're trying to steal the briefcase that he has. And it's just a very complicated story that also doesn't have that satisfying of a payoff. It takes too long, by the way. I lost interest about, like I said, an hour in, it really starts to lag. But then, right as it's getting to the climax, it really slows down when they're on the train and Brad Pitt is talking to this character, this old Asian man, and it just becomes a, kind of like a samurai story where he's just explaining how we all make these choices in life. But it really lost pacing at that point. And on top of that, the villain played by Michael Shannon he's just not really that great in this role. And that's nothing against Michael Shannon. It just feels so poorly placed. Like they keep hinting at this villain, and I just wish he had a better moment as opposed to just monologuing at the end. It feels very tedious and not worth the ride, honestly. I think if you're gonna do a movie like this, you need setups, payoffs. They are there, but they're not used well. Like, there's a snake on the plane. On the train. I get that could be a reference to Snake on a Plane, so maybe they didn't want to use that. But there's so many good opportunities to use comedy, but the film doesn't use it. Sometimes it's just kind of lazily talking, and it doesn't feel like it's really going anywhere. I think the quiet car scene, that's a great example of what this movie does. It, gives you such great, funny moments on a train, and it also is elevating it. Like, you're in a train, but there's a library car, so you have to be quiet. They also give these characters distinct personalities, like, Lemon and Tangerine. One of them is obsessed with Thomas the Train Engine, and it works because not only are we on a train, but then it pays off later when one of the guys recognizes Percy, the bad train from Thomas the Train Engine, like, put on the bad guy. It has plenty of these moments, guys, but there is a difference between giving you these moments, but, like, naturally building the story. This story just doesn't flow so naturally. And a lot of it just has to do with the way we're dealt information. If it had been, not so much Brad Pitt on the phone, more him kind of just taking charge, and I honestly think that his character is enjoyable. It's just an issue of structure, in my opinion. Let me know what you think of Bullet Train. I think there's a lot of better action movies out there, more entertaining ones, but let me know if you saw it, you liked it, and because it could just be good if you want to watch a passable action movie, but if you want something that, really is good, it isn't the best. So let me know what you thought.